Pascal. You are now rocking with that dude Pascal. We be going wild, Haitian in the building, so original. Got the haters catching feelings. Get your hands up to the ceiling and keep them held high. Cause St. Louis isn't ready. Forget about it, goodbye. Hold on, we just saying hi. Five somebody, rise up. Weekdays, catch us live. Somebody, let's go.
Good afternoon, everybody. We have some little bit of breaking news revolving around a tragedy that just happened a little bit ago. Sorry, guys, I wasn't able to get here when it broke, but I am just finding out the information right now as we speak. And, of course, I wanted to give you guys this update. I know as of late, we've been talking about a lot of aircraft, a lot of flying, what do you call them? Aircrafts, like I said, and flying vehicles, all right, that we have been dealing with over the past couple months. And now we got another tragedy right in New York City as we speak. And again, people have lost their lives. From my understanding, there are some kids involved in this situation as well. But again, I'm still getting as much information as I can get right now. So it's all still developing for me on my end. So please do me a favor as we start to file in and start to find out some information about this. This is pretty crazy. Hit that like button down below. Do what it do. Hit that reaction button. That'd be greatly appreciated. If you can, if you're watching on other platforms, make sure you hit that follow button. I'm on Facebook, X/Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Rumble. Hit that follow button over there. Crush that subscribe button here on my main channel. Go to my secondary channel, The Pascal Show Clips. Make sure you're subscribed over there too. That'd be greatly appreciated as well. This is all breaking news. And we got some footage and stuff we're going to be looking at. And allegedly, there's a press conference that's going to be happening in just a little bit. So there's a lot to catch up and look at. So make sure you subscribe, hit that join button down below, become a member, check out my Patreon, check out my locals, and of course, check out PascalMerch.com. We got some really great stuff. Okay, guys. There is something that just happened. Still trying to figure out exactly what happened here. And of course, the news is still developing as things go on. But we do have a article here that I want to share with y'all. So we're going to take a look at this here real quick before we get into all the live updates and all the live footage that's going on with this. First off, let me just say this. And my thoughts and prayers go out to the people out there in New York City, to the families that were involved in this, that have lost their loved ones and all that, because this is very, very scary. Okay, so there was a helicopter and they say, I've been hearing reports of 6 have lost their lives, but they're saying that at least in this report, it's saying a helicopter with at least 4 aboard crashes into the Hudson River. All right, so they're saying, let's see. This particular helicopter crashed into the Hudson River Thursday afternoon, according to NYPD and sources with knowledge of the investigation. A report of the downed aircraft near the West Side Highway and Spring Street came in shortly after 3 p.m. Multiple sources said 4 people had been pulled from the chopper, okay, and were taken to the hospital. It wasn't clear how many people were on the helicopter, nor where it was headed, and or had come from. So they don't know really. But again, like I said, this is a reporting as of, this was updated 14 minutes ago, just so you guys know. Okay, and I'm trying to get through this quickly so we can get to the live footage, because there's a lot going on right now. Okay, and again, man, this is crazy. Emergency boats appeared to be responding to the upside down chopper. Citizen app footage showed. Rescue teams with the NYPD, Jersey City FDNY, and others were among teams responding. Okay, so of course they're telling people, they're urging people to avoid the area and all that stuff. Again, we don't know everything as of yet. They say that 6 people have lost their lives in this particular thing, but I am not entirely sure about that, because now I'm hearing that there is a family of 5, the pilot and a family of 5. So 6 people lost their lives, and this was updated just about a few minutes ago. Okay, because it is just a few minutes ago. So they say pilot and family of 5 from Spain lost their life in a helicopter crash. So they must have been doing some sort of tour, right? like a tourist type of thing, a tour of the skyline of New York City, and then all of a sudden, bang, this helicopter goes down. So this could very well be breaking news right now as we speak. So just so you know, 5 people, a family of 5 from Spain, just so we have a full understanding of what's going on. A family of 5 from Spain was in this plane, or in this helicopter, including the pilot. All right, they crashed into the Hudson River, and they all lost their lives. Okay, let's take a look at this article. All right, 6 people were killed after helicopter believed to be carrying a family of tourists from Spain crashed into the Hudson River on Thursday afternoon. The crash was reported just before 3:30 p.m., closer to the Jersey City side of the Hudson. In addition to the family of 5, 2 adults and 3 children, a pilot was also on board. So that is a total of 6 individuals. Video shared with Eyewitness News appeared to show pieces of the helicopter break apart and crash into the river, okay, or into the water. When crews arrived, the helicopter was upside down in the water. The FAA believes the helicopter was a Bell 206 and appears to have taken off from the downtown Manhattan heliport at 2:59 p.m. So it wasn't out there for a very, very long time. It went off radar at 3:25 p.m. A witness told Eyewitness News that they saw the helicopter crash. I heard a loud snap. I looked over and I could see a helicopter falling on its side and splash into the water. This is what one of the witnesses said. I didn't see anyone come out. Let's take a look.
This is the scene we're talking about. There's even a point where you can see in the river the chopper, which appears to be flipped over in the Hudson River. Emergency crews here on the scene. There's a small crowd that is gathered here watching, people surprised about what's going on. We've talked to several people who said they saw that chopper falling into the water. In fact, I'm going to bring in one of those people right now. Sarah Jean Raymond was practicing for a half marathon, right? So why don't you tell us what it is that you saw?
I was by the like this. I was by the local restaurant. I just stopped facing this way. I saw the helicopter was still in the air. Suddenly, I see it a little bit like going like this,
sideways.
Yes, a little bit. I saw some pieces, like some black pieces going everywhere, and one of the propeller just separated from the helicopter, and the helicopter just fell in the water. I saw the splash. And one of the propeller just kept spinning in the air. It was like, I was in shock. I tried to call 911. I could not reach anyone. I just ran towards it. It was very fast though. Like, they're very fast to come here. I don't know what happened, if the people survive or anything, but oh my God, it's like, you don't see that very often here.
No, you don't see that very often.
No.
Describe for me again. You said you saw pieces flying off of the chopper before it hit the river?
It was like some pieces going around. I thought it was like birds or something black, but I think it was one of the pieces of the propeller. So there's 2 propeller did that spin. One separate, I think one broke into pieces, and the rest, well, the rest of the storage fell. So I don't know what happened. Is it mechanical?
That is
begin though with the latest developments on Wall Street. And
hold on, that is some scary stuff, y'all. Real talk, that's scary. 1 minute you're in the helicopter enjoying a joyride, looking at the beautiful buildings in architecture of New York City, and then all of a sudden the propeller just goes out. Like, pieces of the propeller just completely snap off. That is terrifying. Okay. There is footage here too. I think this is it. I think.
The helicopter falling out of the sky.
Yeah, take a look at this.
Very much the way we've been described by the eyewitnesses. We're going to freeze it again before it hits the water.
Look at that.
But John, if you're with us, can you tell us what you see when you
gosh.
look at this video?
Oh my gosh. What the hell is going on? Yo. I'm sorry, that threw me off. I didn't know it was that close. I thought it was like a further away shot. Hold on. I'm pulling that back a little bit. Whoa.
If you're with us, can you tell us what you see when you look at this video?
Whoa.
What I see, those of us that work in the business, and I've been in this for 30 years, and all of the news helicopter crews in New York City, we're all based together. So of course we go out and we compete, but we all know each other, but we all share the same vocation and the same passion for flying. And that video that you're showing is chilling to all of us.
Yo, that's terrifying. That's not even. Okay. That's so sad. That is just so sad. I haven't seen that footage yet. So I'm watching this live with y'all and reacting to this live. I promise. That is just wild. It almost seemed like there was no warning sign whatsoever. It just snapped and all of a sudden everything, you know what I mean? They're just falling from the sky. Woo! Kids, parents, and a pilot that's just doing his job. Can you believe that? Let me play a little bit more. Sorry, guys. That just threw me off.
See that video and I see that still frame and I see the aircraft with no tail rotor on it. I see the aircraft with no main rotor blade on it, and I see the aircraft upside down.
What could cause something like that, John?
I mean, that is catastrophic.
And whatever happened, Liz, happened fast. You know, for an aircraft to come apart like that in the air, it would be such a stress on the airframe that would cause it to come apart on its own, or it would be an impact with something that might cause a chain reaction. And we don't want to speculate, and we all get on the air and we say we're not going to speculate, and then we speculate because that's what happens in air accidents like this. But you see that freeze frame, and again, for those of us that make our living in the business, it's chilling because that is the absolute worst case scenario. The pilot of that aircraft had no chance to take any kind of emergency actions.
That is like I said, absolutely terrifying. And I mean, this is, of course, just a little bit of what we are hearing about and learning right now. And of course, there's a lot of live coverage going on. So we're going to get to that here very shortly. But I just wanted to, talk about this and share at least a little bit of updates, because I know that a lot of y'all may not even know about this. And so maybe everybody already knows about this too, but I'm just letting you guys, kind of trying to give you guys a quick update before we get into the live footage. All right. So a lot of people are in shock, understandably. At least 32 people have passed away in helicopter crashes in New York City since 1977. Okay. Most recently was in 2019 when a helicopter used for executive travel hit the roof of a Manhattan skyscraper in restricted airspace, and the pilot lost his life. Let's see what this is saying.
Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
We are coming on the air right now with breaking news. Emergency crews are responding to reports of a helicopter in the Hudson River.
Yeah, you're looking at live pictures right now of the scene. You can see lots of first responders there, FDNY as well as Coast Guard and NYPD. This is in the West Houston Street near West Street area. Eyewitness News reporter Lauren Glassberg, she is on the scene on the west side. And Lauren, tell us what you know. And I know you have seen and spoken to some witnesses who said they saw a helicopter crash.
Right. I'm getting my information from two eyewitnesses. Both were jogging along the West Side Highway and each heard a sort of thumping noise, maybe the sound of the rudder. The rotor, I guess I should say. Let me point you in the direction behind me where it is pretty hard to make out all the way from the Manhattan side. But you can see across the Hudson River, we're talking about Jersey City. You might be able to see sort of the ventilation for the Holland Tunnel right in front of that. Just to the east of that, you can see a number of Coast Guard and police boats. And we understand that that is where the helicopter went down. This is just south of the sculpture of the head that a lot of people recognize in the Jersey City along the waterway there. This happened, we're told, at about 3:15. And I do want to bring in one of those eyewitnesses, Max Conru, if you could just step over here, Max. And I understand, thank you for joining us. I understand you were out running, enjoying your run. And then tell me a little bit about what you heard and what you saw.
Yeah, I was running. I had my podcast and enjoying myself. And then I hear it sounded like a sonic boom on my right. So I look up and literally I just see a helicopter splitting in two with the rotor flying off in the sky. It was going so fast, it just went straight into the water and like nothing came up afterwards. It must have just sunk. And that was it. And then like I just waited here, and like 5 minutes later we started seeing the police and stuff come. So it's nice to see there's a really good response, but it was, I've never seen anything like that in my life.
And as you waited, we should know somebody else was calling the police to let them know. And the police had said, yes, we understand that something had happened. It was on the Jersey City side. Hard to make out exactly what's happening. I can see about 6-7 police boats over there, and we see some helicopters also hovering. Were you able to see anything, any sort of signs of somebody trying to make it out?
No, I mean, there were ferries that went earlier, but like I haven't seen anything. I don't know why there would still be boats if they had pulled anyone out. A helicopter's been there for the better part of 20 minutes now, and I haven't seen them lower anything, so I don't know. I mean, from my opinion, it just went straight to the bottom, and like you'd have to pull people out that way. It just happened so fast.
And that noise, how would you describe that noise you heard? Did you think it was maybe construction or?
Yeah, for me, I just thought it was going to be like city noise, like a crash or like maybe like a jet going overhead. I know that's probably not common, but yeah, just like a big bang on my right, and then like a whoop whoop as you see the propeller like flying off like up way higher than the helicopter, and just lands straight in the water.
So it's separated from the actual body of the helicopter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like maybe the tail separated too, but I think definitely the rotor separated and the body went straight into the water. So something must have happened with the rotor and it just flipped right off.
And I think fair to say that if you do run in this area or you take use of the pathways here, you often see these helicopters. We don't know what kind of helicopter it was, if it was a sightseeing helicopter, but there are a fair number of those, and they do fly pretty close to the water. So did you think, gosh, I mean, you probably were hoping that not too many people were on there.
I hope so. I mean, I know that those tourist helicopters carried a lot of people, and I have no idea how like the craftsmanship of them, but like it seemed like it was flying fairly low to the water to be able to like break into and go into the water that quickly, because it wasn't that much of a dive when I was looking and seeing what was happening.
Max, we really appreciate your account of what you saw and sharing the details with us.
Yeah, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. Okay, we got a few things. We got some footage I'm going to share with you guys too. Warning, okay, for those of y'all who are faint of heart. But this is footage of the actual plane, helicopter going down. So I'm going to share that with y'all here. So I found this. So let's take a look. If you notice, look at that. First off, the top for the helicopter, the propellers on the top, gone. The tail is also gone. Okay, the tail is gone. So what the hell happened here? Now, of course, I'm not sitting here saying, oh, yeah, this was a Terry attack or something like that. You know what I mean? Oh, a missile hit him. Then we would have seen a huge explosion of some sort, right? So how did this happen? And of course, this is after the fact. I'm sorry, guys, but look at all the pieces. You can see like a propeller right here kind of starting to kind of fall off. Can I do something with this? No, I can't. But you can see like pieces of the propeller here. I mean, this is all the debris. Look at all those little black dots here, right? And then, of course, when they zoom in, you can see it's just the front half of the helicopter that is flipping upside down and falling into the river like a rock. So again, it's kind of like how did this happen? And no, it can't be power lines because they were flying in an area where there aren't any power lines. So it doesn't make any, that part wouldn't work, right? That wouldn't make sense for this situation. So again, this was a mechanical error that would rip off the back propeller and the top propeller. That's serious. But I'm gonna play one more time for you guys. How did that happen? What's going on here, right? What's going on? All right, so let me get into some of this live footage because there's obviously a press conference happening. So we're going to get straight into this. I think this is happening. Hold on. I think it's, oh, nope. What? Oh, no, the press conference has not happened, but I'm going to play a little bit of this here. Sorry, y'all. A lot going on here. A lot going on. Okay. A lot going on.
Yeah, so this pier is along the West Side Highway down from Houston Street, and it's right across from where the scene on the Jersey side where the chopper went down around 3:30 in the afternoon. You can still see the fire and police boats that are in the water as they work to secure the wreckage from the helicopter so the NTSB can conduct its investigation, figure out what caused the crash. But there had been an immediate response to try and do search and rescue. Unfortunately, that proved to be for naught because all 6 people aboard the helicopter have now been confirmed dead, according to law enforcement sources to ABC News. And we're waiting for an update now from the mayor. On board, a family from Spain, tourists visiting New York, 3 children and 2 adults, along with the pilot, all died aboard.
And Aaron, this is it seems to be quite the response out there. How quickly were they able to get to this scene?
Almost immediately, Eva, and I heard it before I saw it. You could see the emergency vehicles, hear the sirens streaming down the highway on the New York side of the river to try and get closer onto the pier here in Hudson River Park. And then it became clear that the helicopter went down closer to the New Jersey side, close to Jersey City, the New Jersey side of the river. So there was an all-out response on that side of the Hudson River. And almost immediately there were fire and police boats on the water. So the response time was nearly immediate. They halted commuter ferry traffic and other business traffic in the river so as not to create any current around the wreckage with divers in the water.
And Aaron, now that they have determined that all 6 aboard that helicopter have died, what are the next steps here in this investigation?
We're told the NTSB will be on its way to determine what caused the helicopter crash, to see what they might be able to learn from the accident. But we're still waiting to get an identity on the victims. Undoubtedly, there will be consular services from Spain that will have to get involved, notify a family back home. We still don't know who these folks were, other than this family of 5 from Spain visiting the area and in a helicopter to see the sights.
Okay, I got to pause this for a second because this is old live, and of course we're going to come back to this here in a second. But there is some footage that the report they're saying they're claiming this to be footage right before the actual crash. This is saying here this is footage before the crash, okay, into the Hudson River, and apparently the helicopter was flying erratically before the actual crash. And that's something that I think is interesting. So take a look at this. This is allegedly the footage before the plane, before the helicopter actually crashed. Now, I don't know how much of that is. This is just what's being shared online. But look at that. Nosedive. Straight up nosedive. A straight up nosedive. Look at that. That's very odd. Right? So something's up. Seems a little bit weird, right? Seems a little bit weird, right? I don't know. Again, take that with a grain of salt, but it does seem like, yeah, this is something's odd. Something odd is going on, but like I said, oh, okay. My bad, guys. Not that is a completely different video. So somebody used it as fake. Somebody used it as something else. So that's not the video. Sorry about that, guys. The freaking internet, man. It happens. But still, it is very odd how this whole thing, it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make any sense. But let us continue on with this footage here. I'm going to see if there's any more updates, okay? And if when this press conference actually happens. Let's take a look at this.
What more do we know about the helicopter that they were in today?
I actually haven't been able to get much or see much. I know you were looking at videos, but I haven't been able to see any of the pictures. It's believed to be operated by New York Helicopters, a tourist helicopter company, and that is not uncommon. All sorts of tourist helicopters all the time along the Hudson, viewing the magnificent New York City skyline, popular with tourists. In fact, there was an accident of a tourist helicopter. I think it killed tourists from Italy, but this was quite a number of years ago. And there had been calls to regulate some of these tourist helicopters, or at least reduce the traffic along the busy Hudson River, which is, part of the flight path for nearby LaGuardia Kennedy and Newark airports. But be that as it may, this helicopter was conducting a sightseeing tour with this family from Spain, and all 6 aboard were killed.
Let's bring in aviation expert John Nance. If you could kind of break down for us, what do we know about the helicopter that was involved in this accident?
Well, first of all, it's called a Bell 206, probably the B model. It has one seat up front for the pilot, and in the back there are 3 seats facing 2 seats. It can be a very luxurious interior. Very stable machines. There are tens of thousands of them have been built over the many years that they've been in service. And this type of accident, if in fact we are correct and the hub and blades came apart in the air, it's extremely rare. Matter of fact, it's more than extremely rare. It's almost unheard of. We have a lot of helicopter accidents that are a result of pilot failures or human factors and that sort of thing. But disassembly in the air is incredibly odd. And I know the NTSB is going to be looking for everything. Nothing is ever ruled out in the beginnings of an investigation. But one of the elements that they will go after principally is the system that's called the hub and the blades of the chopper, and how they managed to come apart in the air, if that's what happened.
And for people who don't know what this kind of helicopter is, you said there's 3 seats on one side and 2 on the other. Just how big of an area inside of this helicopter?
Oh, it's snug. It's like getting into a nice SUV and having facing seats, which is pretty rare. But it's not uncomfortably snug. But you've got 3 people looking forward, 2 aft, and then the pilot up front. And the aircraft's capability, the helicopter's capability to lift the weight of that sort of a load is very good. It's a very powerful bird, usually twin engines.
We just got some information from Sam Sweeney, who is one of our reporters on the transportation team. And he's saying that the helicopter is 21 years old, was owned by a leasing company called Meridian Helicopters. Meridian is not the New York City tour operator who was flying it. This was its 6th flight of the day. The flight lasted about 15 minutes around Manhattan before it crashed. 21 years old for a helicopter. Is that very old for a helicopter, John Nance?
Not really. Fixed wing airplanes can go almost indefinitely as long as they've got good maintenance. I mean, B-52s in the Air Force are all older than the oldest aircraft commander. Helicopters, a little bit less on the long tooth side. In other words, you don't want to necessarily have the same level of maintenance at age 35 and 40 for a helicopter, because it really becomes very expensive to do that. But the 20 years is an average age for a well-working and well-maintained craft. It doesn't tell me, that at 10 years it's a young airplane and at 40 it should be retired. That's just not the case.
All right. John, Aaron, thank you both for staying with us and for helping us
I think it's wild that at some point I feel like we're going to get to that place where people are going to start asking about the year that the plane or the aircraft was actually made. I feel like we're going to be there. Yeah, I'm planning on flying to Italy in this plane. And when was this plane made? Oh, it's brand new. Okay. Or it just came, it's 30 years old. Ooh, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's very, very interesting. Let me
Here in London. Thank you so much. North Carolina live from
news. And then they just cut it out. Okay. We are going into other live footage. Okay. So give me a second, y'all. All right. Let me just get that. Boom.
Broadcasting outside of the aircraft. This is as fast as
Crazy.
I'm going. This is my altitude. This is who I am. And then, some vehicles also have a way of sucking in that information. You would have air traffic control. It would be on radar. So they would cross-check what the air traffic control was showing on its radar and transponder with what the aircraft was reporting. And then at that point, it's also a question of what was the position of the flight controls, the position of the cyclic and the stick and the controls basically that the pilot had. Of course, it's possible that it might have changed depending on what the aircraft is, but some of these systems may have a computer that is recording this data that could actually be recovered and pulled out. So it's really kind of depend on the configuration of this aircraft. But really what they're going to be doing is once they pull that aircraft out, then they're going to take a look and see what happened at the top. Was it a clean break, or if they see something that was actually wrenched? As hard as that aircraft hit the water, it wouldn't be necessarily something so powerful that I think it would actually break the shaft. So if you see the shaft is actually broken or torn, the engineers will know what kind of stresses would cause what kind of damage. So really, that's going to be your first thing. They're going to pull it out. They're going to take a look at it, because if there is some kind of material failure, which could be systemic to other parts or some other maintenance procedure that was not followed properly, which could have possibly been done on other helicopters, they need to know that as soon as possible.
All right. Armin Kurdian, retired captain with the U.S. Navy. Thank you for your insight. You've been very helpful to help us understand the different possible scenarios and what is next to come. We do appreciate your time.
Certainly. Have a nice day.
We're now going to continue our breaking news coverage here with Allie Bauman. She's been live right now on Pier 40. She's got some new information for us. Allie, what are you learning?
Okay.
Yeah, Alan and Christine, they're getting ready to set up the press conference right behind me, which I'm sure we're going to take live any minute as soon as it starts. But just some new information that I'm learning from sources at this hour, that the 6 victims included a family from Spain. Now, that is excluding the pilot who was flying that plane, a tourism plane, or tourism helicopter, I should say, excuse me, a tourism helicopter that was flying over here. But I'm told that the other 5 victims were a family from Spain. Now, we have learned earlier that includes at least 2 children and the 3 adults, all of which have died. So that's new information that we're getting just at this hour from sources from City Hall. We're waiting on that press conference that I'm told should start any minute now, as soon as Mayor Adams arrives in his place behind me at the end of pier there. So, Alan and Christine, that's the latest from right here.
All right, Ali
Press
Bauman
conference
reporting
coming.
for us from Pier 40. Thank you, Ali. We'll be returning to that area once the news conference gets underway. In the meantime, our investigative team has been digging into some details here since this crash took place. Let's bring in investigator Tim McNicholas. And Tim, I know that you've been looking more into the company, into the plane. What have you been able to learn?
So a source familiar with the investigation has confirmed to us that this was a Bell 206 and that it's owned by a company called Meridian Helicopters. That's an LLC out of Louisiana. So that company, their website and their Facebook page say that they're a helicopter brokerage. So what does that mean? Well, they say that they sell helicopters, they lease helicopters, and they refurbish helicopters. They also say that they do pre-buy inspections on helicopters. And I want to point out that just because they're the owner, the registered owner of this helicopter, doesn't mean they were the operator. So we're still looking into information on who is operating this. We don't know anything about that at this point. Flight path data on this particular aircraft shows that at least over the past week, it has been flying to and from heliports and airports in our area. So it's taking multiple flights per day, by the way. Some of those flights are between one Manhattan heliport and another heliport. Some of those flights are between JFK and Newark. Some of them are between those airports and the heliport. We have reached out to Meridian Helicopters, and we haven't heard back yet.
But for the past few days, all local trips, little jumps here and there.
Yes, often between one heliport and another. So very local, very small trips. And sometimes they go out to the airports as well.
Do we have any information on this trip? A takeoff point, intended destination at any point?
Well, I heard Ali Bauman report actually earlier that it took off, at least on this particular trip, from Lower Manhattan. So that was yet another small trip in that instance as well, as far as we know.
All right, Tim, we'll let you get back to work. And when you get some more information, we'll see you back here.
Sure.
We got some more footage I'm going to share and show y'all here. We're gonna be coming back to this, I promise. Don't worry. We still are on that for sure. But there is some footage that I think we should take a look at this. And this is kind of crazy because it says right here, just in, and this was posted a little bit ago. But it says, just in, 6 people confirmed to be deceased in the Hudson River helicopter crash. All right. So the chopper propeller was seen detached from the helicopter spinning into the water, which we're going to be seeing here in just a second. According to a witness who spoke with NBC, the blade just flew off. I don't know what happened to the tail, but it just straight up dropped. It dropped feet away from Holland Tunnel. And I can't imagine if it hit it. This is what somebody said. The passengers were on vacation with their children taking a tour of Manhattan. Take a look at this footage. This is interesting. See that propeller? Boom. That's crazy, y'all. Rolling that back. So what I think happened is the propeller came off of the plane, and while it flipped off, it clipped or cut off the tail of the actual helicopter. I meant a helicopter, sorry. So it came off and sliced the tail right off the helicopter. And then everything just kind of went into pieces. And then, of course, the helicopter went down, right? And that definitely was the sound of, just so you guys know, that wasn't like some explosion or anything like that. That is just the sound of the helicopter falling into the water. Because, of course, sound, that's how sound travels, especially if you're a distance away, right? So just so you guys know, because some people were asking, like, what was that sound? It's the sound of the helicopter falling into the water. And again, how sound travels, just so you guys know. There's a little bit of a delay, if you notice. You see the lightning strike, and then 3 seconds later, you hear the thud, right? It's kind of like that. Does that make sense? Let's take a look. That's crazy. That is crazy. And then the helicopter is right there too, by the way. Now, we've already seen this part, so I'm going to go back and show you guys the first part again. We've already seen the first part, but that's the helicopter crashing into the water, and then debris, the propeller, and all that just falling into the river. This is insane. We've already seen this part. This is this is the newest footage that we have right now, okay? But this is scary. This is very scary. Helicopter upside down. Crazy. Yeah, it did fall like a sack of rocks, guys. Like a sack of potatoes, for sure. It had nothing to keep itself up. You know what I mean? There was nothing there to keep itself up. The propellers were all ripped off, right? And that is some terrifying stuff, y'all. That is some terrifying stuff. Real freaking talk. Hold on. We're going back to that live.
Passengers all survived.
And then going back to August 2009, a sightseeing helicopter carrying Italian tourists collided with a private plane over the Hudson River, killing 9 people on board that time. We're getting audio for the first responders being dispatched from the scene. I believe this just got into our newsroom. We're going to take a listen in on this really quick.
Wow.
Special Traffic Service New York has received a report of a helicopter crash in vicinity of the Holland Tunnel vents on the New Jersey side.
Yeah, I've located the choppers north of the vents right here, right where I'm sitting. It's upside down in the water here.
All traffic into the North River, coming out of the North River, is to be diverted.
On the NYPD boat off the Holland Tunnel vents, it looked like a section of it went down a little bit further to the north, closer towards like the statue with the tail section almost.
So that is information, the exact conversations that law enforcement were having back and forth as they tried to piece together what happened there in the Hudson. We heard them recall seeing the helicopter upside down in the water. They spoke it was there near the Holland Tunnel vents. This is all information, of course, we've been able to confirm here over the last couple of hours. At that moment, of course, law enforcement was unaware of how many were on board, the condition of the people on board. The first ones that got there were other boats and tourists and the sightseeing boats in the area there. NYPD came shortly after.
Yeah, but the last recording that we heard there, Alan, is of particular interest because the operator mentions that other parts of that helicopter are in another area, saying that it was more towards the statue. So these reports of a loud noise and other reports that we've been hearing that the helicopter did not have its main rotor. These are all pieces of this incident that are now being pieced together. And this further does back up this assumption that something catastrophic happened to this helicopter here this afternoon, something catastrophic, so catastrophic that the main rotor appears to have just disengaged. It fell off the actual body of the helicopter, and then the cabin of that helicopter crashed near the Holland Tunnel vents. If you're watching here at home, and if you do take ferry service, there has been some ferries schedules that have needed to change as a result of the activity that's going on in the Hudson. So a mile north and south of the crash site has now been cut off by the Coast Guard. And then of course some local streets here on the Manhattan side and on the Jersey side are also closed due to emergency personnel. You can still see here that some officials are still getting everything set for this news conference. You can see the line of microphones as well that have been set up. This appears to be being set up at Pier 40. We do know that the mayor is there, and you can surely bet that the fire commissioner and fire chief is there, and also the police commissioner. They will be discussing all of the details that they know so far. But this is going to go down as a very sad day here in the city and also in New Jersey, as we have unfortunately witnessed 6 people lose their lives when they took off from where we believe to be Lower Manhattan, a helipad in Lower Manhattan. We don't know the circumstances of their flight. All we know is that there were 6 people on board. It appears 2 of them were children, and they have all now been confirmed dead. We do see the wreckage still in the river, and we do see the equipment that has now been pulled in. You can see that massive crane that is now taking its position, and we can see there that it is right near the main body of the helicopter, and they will then be bringing it up out of the water for inspection. We do see some officials there at the podium. It looks as though things will be getting underway at any moment as they continue to give final details. And I do believe that it sounds like somebody is going to be speaking soon. You do see Mayor Adams there. And let's go ahead and listen in.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm joined here today with Mayor Eric Adams, Deputy Mayor for Administration Camille Joseph Varlock, the Fire Commissioner Robert Tucker, the Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch, and the Emergency Management Commissioner Zach Isco. We are here on the scene at Pier 40 on the west side of Manhattan, where earlier today a passenger helicopter crashed into the Hudson River. Our response was swift and coordinated. We have the FDNY, the NYPD, the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner here on the scene assisting with rescue efforts. New York City Office of Emergency Management was coordinating efforts on the ground with our public safety agencies. As our state and federal partners, including the FAA, the Port Authority, and the United States Coast Guard, the National Transportation Safety Board, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and our partner agencies in New Jersey. When an emergency like this happens and strikes, this team responds with expert speed and professionalism. I want to thank all of our brave first responders for assisting in the rescue efforts and the ongoing investigation into this tragedy. For more information, I would like to turn it over to Mayor Eric Adams.
Thanks so much, DM Daughtry. Our hearts go out to the family of those who were on board and all 6 who were on board of the helicopter. It's almost reminiscence of the plane going down here on the Hudson River, but thank God we didn't lose any lives back then. We still fresh and it's still new. The investigation is ongoing, and we have the entire family members. We're lifting them up in prayer. Here's what we know at this time. At approximately 3:17 this afternoon, we began receiving multiple calls for a helicopter that crashed in the water. These calls generated the response of many agencies, as the Deputy Mayor Daughtry stated, including FDNY, NYPD, the Port Authority, and our Jersey partners, the police officers in Jersey as well, and the Coast Guard. 3 adults and 3 children were on board a Bell 206 helicopter that had left from the downtown Skyport just about 3 p.m. The pilot and the family visiting from Spain, what our preliminary information has at this time. Members of the FDNY and NYPD harbor units arrived at the scene, and divers from both agencies entered the water. At this time, all 6 victims have been removed from the water. And sadly, all 6 victims have been pronounced deceased. Again, we're praying for the families and our gratitude to the rescuers and the courage that was displayed and their dedication. I will now turn it over to Fire Commissioner Tucker.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. As the mayor said, at approximately 3:15 this afternoon, numerous calls were received for a helicopter crash in the Hudson River. We have FDNY assets right up the road here, and we launched our boats immediately. This operation was a joint operation between the FDNY and the NYPD. Our rescue swimmers were in the water shortly after the call and recovered some of the victims. We worked very closely with the NYPD divers on this, and I think this tragic day does indicate just how the spirit of cooperation between the NYPD and the FDNY is alive on the streets and in the water. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon. The mayor covered most of it, but perhaps I have a few details to add here. Obviously, this is an ongoing investigation, and all information that we'll provide is preliminary and subject to change. At approximately 3:17 this afternoon, multiple 911 calls started coming in reporting a helicopter crash in the Hudson River near the New Jersey coastline off the coast of River Drive in Hoboken. NYPD units from aviation, harbor, scuba, and patrol all responded, with our first units arriving at the site within minutes. Our NYPD divers entered the water along with rescue personnel from FDNY, Port Authority, and various New Jersey agencies. According to the manifest, aboard the helicopter were 6 people, 1 pilot, 2 adults, and 3 children. NYPD divers pulled 4 people from the crash site, and FDNY divers recovered an additional 2. Immediate life-saving measures were undertaken on the vessels at the scene, as well as the adjoining pier. 4 victims were pronounced dead on scene, and 2 more were removed to local area hospitals, where sadly both succumbed to their injuries. Names are being withheld at this time, pending family notification. Here is what we know about the flight, and this is based on flight tracking software. A Bell 206 helicopter flying for the tour company New York Helicopters took off from the downtown Manhattan heliport at 2:59 p.m. The aircraft flew south before turning to fly north along the Manhattan shoreline up the Hudson River. At 3:08 p.m., the helicopter reached the George Washington Bridge and then turned again to fly south along the New Jersey shoreline. Shortly thereafter, the aircraft lost control and hit the water just a few feet off the coast of Pier A Park in Hoboken. The cause of the crash is currently under investigation.
Dang. Dang. Okay.
We don't have that information at this time, and we're holding it to a complete investigation.
Go ahead.
Could you tell us about the recovery?
One at a time, please, Mayor.
Could you tell us about the recovery of the helicopter? If the helicopter submerged in the water, how did divers find it?
I'm sorry, Sam?
How did divers find the helicopter? Is it submerged, and what happened to how we recover it?
The helicopter hit the water, we believe, inverted, and it was the cabin piece was visible above the water.
Mark, go ahead.
Do you know why the family was in town on vacation?
No, still preliminary investigation.
Jen? Any background on the pilot? Any past incidents with him before? Perhaps anything in the crash?
It's still, as you see, this is fresh. All this is preliminary, and we're going to look into that.
Time for 2 more. Go ahead. Do you have any idea of how old the helicopter was, the age of it? And also, we had witnesses telling us that the helicopter supposed to stop in midair, and there were pieces of the helicopter falling off before it actually hit the water. Have you heard of that? Do you know why?
Stopped in midair.
Yeah, I think the entire incident is under investigation by the NTSB and the FBI, and
of course,
obviously local authorities as well.
Is that something that you have seen or you have heard witness accounts
It's consistent with 911 calls and witness reports.
Last question, go ahead. I just wanted to ask the genders of the people that were on the call, the children especially.
Still an investigation. We want to be cautious about releasing any information until we're able to notify family members and the communication with the consulate.
Yeah. And before we close, just lastly, when myself and Commissioner Tucker arrived on the Jersey side of the Hudson River, we were met by the first responders and they told us they did everything they can to try to save these victims. And you can see the trauma in their face. They did everything they can, and they wanted me to make sure that I made that public. They really tried their hardest. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Man.
All right.
Oh,
you can
tragic.
Definitely hear the sorrow in our city leaders' voices. We saw it in their faces. This is a sad day here in our city. They are confirming that a pilot and a family visiting here from Spain all died in this helicopter crash this afternoon in the Hudson River. And what the NYPD commissioner there shared with us is it sounded as though, according to flight technology data that they were able to gather, is it sounded like a tour of the city to look at the skyline. She talked about how it was going south and then it turned north to go up to the GW Bridge, and then it turned south again to look at the Jersey Shore side of the Hudson and to see what that side of the Hudson looks like. And sadly, that is where something happened. And what that is, we do not know at this hour, but it was something very catastrophic, according to witnesses, and also according to one emergency call that we heard from the operators talking to each other. One of those calls did mention that there were other parts of that helicopter that were separated from the actual body of the aircraft, which is now what you see here in this live picture right off of Hoboken.
Exactly. And another interesting point of something they just said, a lot of details that we were able to bring you all here in the last couple of hours, but they referenced the flight took off around 2:59 p.m. and those calls started coming in at about 3:17. That's according to the
Pretty
mayor
fast.
and Commissioner Tisch. This was less than a 20-minute flight in the air before something went horribly, horribly wrong. And based on the information we just got from that press conference, along with some of the information from witnesses and what they've been saying and speaking to, it does appear, Christine, like you just said, that something catastrophic happened in the air that caused this helicopter to break up before it hit the water. For there to be something, a piece of the chopper not falling right where the rest of the fuselage was, where the main cabin was, that shows something terrible happened there. We've got our reporter now, Allie Bauman, out there at Pier 40. She's live there for us. Allie, anything going on from what we just heard out of that press conference?
Yeah, Alan, as you mentioned, that press conference just wrapped up. We're now seeing those city officials leaving the Pier 40 here. I'm going to have them pan over to you, going back into the building at Pier 40 and walking out towards the main area. Now, to recap what we learned in that press conference, that was the mayor speaking, the police commissioner, the FDNY commissioner, the deputy commissioner of operations for the NYPD, saying, of course, that their hearts go out to that family that was on board, that family of 5 tourists from Spain, we've learned, 3 children and 2 adults in the family, and then the pilot as well. So that brings the total to 3 children and 3 adults on the helicopter. All of them have passed. Now, the mayor said that it was a Bell 206 helicopter that left from a downtown Skyport at around 3 p.m., going on a tour of, over New York City, as so many do. The commissioner was
Live shot.
as I was standing over there at the press conference. The NYPD commissioner was saying that according to the manifest on board, it appears that Bell 206 was operating with New York Helicopters Tour Company, and it had taken off at around 3 o'clock. It flew south before going north at 3:08 p.m. The commissioner says that the helicopter reached the George Washington Bridge, then turned to fly south, and that's when she said the helicopter appears to have lost control and hit the water feet off of the coast of Hoboken on the Jersey side of the Hudson River. And within minutes, the NYPD, FDNY, Coast Guard were on scene. Some were taken to the hospital, but four were pronounced dead on scene. 2 were taken to the hospital where they died from their injuries. So again, all 6 people on board are dead, including a family of 5 from Spain. Christine and Alan.
Thank you so much for that update. A lot of new information.
This is all very tragic. Of course, to think that you just get onto a plane, or onto a helicopter to take a joyride, take a look at a few things, see the skyline of a very beautiful city, and for all of this to just be like this is just insane. This is still a very shocking and sad situation.
Know that 6 people are dead. This happened around 3 this afternoon, closer to the Jersey side of the river, just near the Holland Tunnel ventil shaft. And we're also learning here tonight that 3 adults and 3 children, the victims included a family here visiting from Spain. Officials say that all of the bodies have been recovered. Taking a live look now at the picture of the scene, we can see here from this map that gives you a better idea of exactly where the crash happened. And then now these live pictures of the scene where you can still see NYPD and also FDNY water vessels still at the scene. The body of the helicopter is still submerged in the Hudson. They did bring in a giant crane that is on top of a boat, and they will then be recovering the fuselage of the helicopter for examination. We're also hearing some of the audio from when first responders were first dispatched to the scene. Take a listen.
Vessel Traffic Service New York has received a report of a helicopter crash in vicinity of the Holland Tunnel vents on the New Jersey side.
Yeah, I've located the choppers north of the vents right here, right where I'm sitting. It's upside down in the water here.
All traffic into the North River, coming out of the North River, is to be diverted.
On the NYPD boat off the Holland Tunnel vents, it looked like a section of it went down a little bit further to the north, closer towards like the statue with the tail section almost.
Our team headed straight to the scene as soon as this news broke this afternoon, and we have team coverage here at 6. Let's begin with Jennifer Bisram. She was on location at Pier 40 when city officials held their news conference just moments ago. Jennifer.
Hi, Christine. City officials just wrapped up that press conference about 5 minutes ago. Again, just talking about what a sad day in New York City this is. 6 people lost their lives after a helicopter they were in crashed into the Hudson around 3:15 this afternoon. Officials saying those 6 people included a pilot, a couple, and 3 kids on that helicopter. We're told that the family on that helicopter was visiting here from Spain. Again, this happened around 3:15 this afternoon, and we're told that the helicopter was from a downtown skyport. Again, they took off for a tour here in the city, and as soon as that helicopter went into the Hudson, officials say they got several calls of this happening. Rescue swimmers went in, dive teams went in from FDNY, NYPD, all going in, doing their best they can to find that helicopter first and foremost, and then get everyone out. We're told that that pilot was found dead inside. We're told that the rest of the people who were inside that helicopter were rescued, and most of them died on scene. 2 were taken to local hospitals where they did pass away from their injuries. And one thing the deputy commissioner said as the press conference wrapped up was that those rescue crews wanted to make sure that they did the best they could to try to save everybody on that helicopter. But as you know, sadly, that did not happen. The investigation is ongoing. It's still unclear what went wrong. And of course, as we get more information, we will certainly bring that to you. Guys.
Absolutely, Jennifer. Thank you for that update from your position there at Pier 40. Also at Pier 40 for us here tonight is Allie Bauman. She continues our team coverage. And Allie, I know that you mentioned that you saw some of those members of the dive team that returned back to the pier, and the looks on their faces was just utter devastation.
Yeah, Christina, about, maybe an hour and a half or so after the plane went down, we saw FDNY boats arriving here at Pier 40, and some of the divers, coming out dripping wet in their wetsuits, and just their faces completely dropped after we had learned that all 6 people on board had died. Now, earlier this afternoon, we did speak to one witness over at Pier 40 here who saw the plane, or who saw the helicopter, go down. He said that he saw the tail of the helicopter pop off, is what he said, and he saw the main rotor then come off, and says that the helicopter then appeared to fall backwards into the water. Now, as we heard in the press conference, the police commissioner said that helicopter ended up just, falling into the Hudson River just feet off of the coast of Hoboken. It was around 3:08 p.m., shortly after it had reached the George Washington Bridge and then turned to fly south, lost control. So it is just an absolutely heartbreaking scene here on this cold.
Again, I mean, this is some crazy stuff. Again, to think that you and your family are coming in from Spain, you're looking at one of the most magnificent cities in this country, in my personal opinion. I love New York. Shout out to New York. And you're going and you're taking a tour, and then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. This is scary, guys. And as you guys have seen, it's been nothing but aircraft after aircraft after aircraft of all types just falling apart and having, issues back to back to back. This is a really scary situation. And, my thoughts and prayers go out to all the people that are deeply saddened and traumatized from this whole situation. And I feel like we'll find out more information here very, very soon. But they're saying it sounded like the propeller, or it stalled in midair. Like it just stalled. And if that's true, that's scary, right? But I'm still wondering how the propeller just ripped off if it's stalled, right? So of course, that's something that I'm kind of curious about. But let me share this real quick. Show you guys this.
There you see with the crane, I will eventually pull that helicopter out of the water. We're also seeing parts of the helicopter floating here. A brown seat we saw, part of the door, as well as safety pamphlets. One witness we spoke with tells us he actually saw a broken rotor from the helicopter. Many of the witnesses we've been talking to tell us they heard that loud boom, sort of like an explosion right before the crash. Take a listen.
I heard like such a loud sound. It felt like a thunder, and because it was rainy today, it just was like, okay, maybe. And then I saw like black particles flying, and again I thought maybe it's just like dust or birds.
That sounded honestly like an engine came out. I looked outside my window. I saw a few people running towards the water, and some people were acting pretty normal. So I was like, oh, it might not be anything. Then I started hearing all the sirens come outside.
And back here live, you can see what's left of that helicopter over by the pier in the water. Again, this investigation still in the early stages, but a lot of people here just in disbelief and very saddened to learn that 6 people have died.
This is, like I said, very, very sad. Of course, I'm going to keep an eye on this and see if there's any more updates revolving around this. We just heard the press conference. It sounds like it was just a regular, good old fashioned tour, a helicopter tour of the skyline of New York, and then everything, it just went haywire. Again, I'm wondering what the maintenance was, what the maintenance log was on this particular helicopter. You got to remember, this allegedly was the 6th helicopter ride this helicopter took today. So that's something to think about too, that it was up and down, up and down, up and down, giving people rides like crazy. And again, it's a very popular thing to take a helicopter tour of New York City. So what's wild is that this was the 6th flight of the day, right? So that does tell you something. And it does make you wonder, how often are they are they doing maintenance on their helicopters before they take off? Do they do it every single time? Do they do only once a week? How often do they do that, right? But that is a very, very scary situation. We're obviously been hearing from a lot of eyewitnesses. about what they've experienced, what they're hearing and all that. Some say they heard a loud boom, not the boom of the helicopter hitting the water, but the loud boom before the actual helicopter fell from the sky. So that there could have been an explosion within the machine, like within the workings of the actual rotary, or of the with the propeller or something like that. Maybe something like that happened. God only knows. But of course, there still is the next question, which is somebody asked about like weight capacity. I will say this: I doubt that they would sit there and tell. I doubt that they would let a family of 5 on the airplane on the helicopter if they were past capacity, right? I just feel like they would be like, no, we cannot put you guys all in the same, helicopter. You guys are going to have to do 2 tours separately. So I don't think it's like that, right? But you never know. Anything is possible. But the mayor is saying something, so let me just play that real quick before I sign off.
I believe you summed it up appropriately. Here you have visitors who were here just to see, a picturesque and a legendary skyline. And unfortunately, we lost 5 family members and a pilot to an incident. We're still investigating. There are many unknowns here, but with our federal, state, and city partners, we'll find out exactly what happened. But again, our hearts goes out to the family members, and we're going to notify them as soon as they're all properly identified.
With respect to the lives that were lost today, Mayor, I would like to address just the issue and the presence of helicopters here in our city. This is not the first crash that we've seen. I know there are many flights that are taken here on a daily basis, but helicopter safety, the amount of helicopters that we have here in the city is I know that back at one point, the companies that give tours did agree to cut helicopter tours here in the city in half by 2017, and we have seen some progress in that. But I want to know from your perspective as the man who runs the city, what are your concerns here tonight after seeing another tragedy take place?
Well, we take thousands of tourist flights. There are many flights that are here, and helicopters are safe. We have witnessed that throughout the years, and it's part of the New York experience. This is a very unfortunate situation, but we have to always ensure we have the proper safety precautions, and that's what's done. But it is clearly part of the New York experience. People do come and they want to experience New York City from the sky. That is why it flies over the Hudson River. We're extremely concerned to make sure that it's not putting residents in danger. And for the few accidents we have witnessed, there's constant improvement. There's some, as you indicated, decrease in the number of flights. But it is very much part of the New York experience.
Mayor Adams joining us here on appropriately, it's rainy and it's overcast days here along the Hudson. Mayor, we appreciate you taking the time to be with us.
Again, like I said, this is a very tragic situation, and I'm hoping that they shed more light on what actually happened here and what we can do to stop from these kind of things from happening, right? What can they do to stop this from happening? Could this have been preventable? Could this have been prevented, right? And I think that's the one thing I think we're all trying to understand and find out as well. Again, my thoughts and prayers go out to the family and the pilot, okay, because that's a separate family, but the family of the pilot and all those that are affected by this situation. And of course, if there's more information, we will talk about it very soon. But that is the show, guys. I appreciate all y'all for being here. It really means a lot. Thank you so much for taking the time to spend that time with me and checking out the show. Please do me a favor before we head out. Sorry, guys, but I got to run out here real quick. Hit that like button down below. Crush that subscribe button if you can. That'd be greatly appreciated. If we find out more information, we'll be back on another live, okay? Hit that join button down below, please, and thank you. Check out my Patreon. Check out my locals. And, of course, check out PascalMerch.com. We got some really great stuff over there. Anyway, guys, it is time to get going. Much love to you guys. We will talk very, very soon. And like I said, More information comes out. We will talk about it. All right. You stay blessed out there. Be good to yourselves. Be good to one another. This is the Pascal Show. Bye.